Hey, I'm Casper. I'm part of PAM Life, the employee wellbeing app. As lockdown eases, we're trying to get everybody back into good health and feeling good about themselves. Today, you've got a spare 5 minutes. We've got a great short introduction to Mindfulness podcast, which is great for people that have never tried it out before. By listening to this podcast, you'll be able to work out why and how mindfulness can help improve your wellbeing. It might help ease your stress levels and help you focus better at work. I hope you enjoy listening to it. In this session, there are 3 things I want to explain to you. What is mindfulness? What are the guiding principles of mindfulness? And what is the history and the development of mindfulness? Before I jump into defining what mindfulness is, I think it helps understand where the concept of mindfulness originates from and how it's developed over time. You might not be aware, but the core foundations of mindfulness finds its roots in ancient spiritual traditions, especially Buddhism, which is over 2,000 years old. Over the years, mindfulness is branched off into 2 main conceptualizations, Buddhist and Western. To help differ the two, I'm going to explain the differences on 3 main levels, which are the contextual differences, the processes used, and content. Starting off with the Buddhist version, mindfulness is viewed as an holistic process that is used to obtain liberation from suffering and lead an ethical lifestyle. On the other hand, the Western conceptualization is generally not associated with any specific philosophy or ethical practice. At the process level, mindfulness in the context of Buddhism is to be practiced in line with the key aspects of Buddhist teachings, such as impermanence, non-self, and suffering. In Western practice, there is much less emphasis placed on traditional Buddhist teachings. Finally, at the content level, the key differences between the 2 versions is the form and the type of awareness that one will have when practicing mindfulness. In Buddhist teachings, mindfulness will traditionally follow an introspective awareness that focuses on your own physical and psychological experiences. In contrast, the Western version of mindfulness encompasses a much broader sense of awareness than just your own internal experiences. It also places much more emphasis on focusing on the features of objects in your surrounding environment. In Buddhist teachings, your awareness is only external when observing your perception and reaction to the objects in your external environment. Now that I've explained the 2 conceptualizations of mindfulness, I'm going to focus my attention on exploring the Western version in more detail. According to this version, mindfulness is the awareness that arises through paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and through a non-judgemental approach. In more detail, the process of mindfulness occurs through the mental act of voluntarily and intentionally moving your attention towards something in particular, like your breath. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Well, mindfulness is not as simple as you may think. Several guiding principles will determine whether you're in a state of mindfulness. Once you're aware of these guiding principles, you'll be able to use a checklist to assess during the mindfulness practice whether you're following the correct procedure. The first principle is the mental act of orientating your attention towards something in particular, like your breath, something in the environment, or if you're doing a body scan, a certain part of your body. Number 2, mindfulness is not only being aware of the present thoughts, emotions, feelings, and sensations, but also being aware of how they fluctuate and change with time. One of the first things you'll learn in any type of mindfulness exercise is to simply be aware of how things change with time. You may notice 1 second you're thinking about what happened at work, then suddenly your thoughts switch to what might happen tomorrow, and then you might return back to the present moment. This is an important lesson to learn because it teaches you how fast and how much your mind thinks, and why it is so important to sometimes just watch and observe what is happening in the present moment, sort of when you're sat on the sofa watching the TV. Number 3, mindfulness is practiced using a non-judgemental and observational approach. This does not necessarily mean suppressing your attitudes and emotions, but instead being aware of what thoughts and feelings arise in that moment and just noticing how you respond to things in the environment. Number 4 is having a mindful attitude instead of a following attitude. What I mean by this is being mindful of what thoughts, feelings and emotions that are automatically triggered during a mindfulness exercise, but not allowing yourself to follow and your actions to be guided by them. This final guiding principle is probably one of the most challenging skills to master because it essentially requires you to be able to effectively regulate your emotions and be able to detach yourself from any distracting feelings. Fingers crossed, you're now a bit more knowledgeable about what mindfulness is.